everyone, and welcome back to Dedicated to Art. That's right, we're here, ready to talk some Aladdin because we have an inside track on the new live action Aladdin film directed by Guy Ritchie. And that's our very own Chris Doman, guys. He got to see the movie before the rest of us nerds and boring people that don't get screeners to movies days before they even hit the theaters for everyone else. So we got together and we're like, you know what? Let's let the people know what this movie's all about because I mean, it's always good to know walking into something along the lines of a movie like this where it's a beloved classic in its own right as an animated film and then now transferring over to the live action scene, you want to know what to expect. So, Chris, right off the bat, man, tell us a little bit about your experience with the live action Aladdin film.
So I wasn't actually expecting to see this movie, when I did, but because I had a friend of mine who, also goes to a lot of advanced screenings ahead of time, and he happened to have a spare seat, and I'm like, ooh, can I have it? He's like, yeah, and so we did that, and it was actually really cool because I was very surprised to see just people of all ages, all across the board, and all big fans of the original. And it was a nicely sized theater, although holy crap was it packed in there.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's 2 weeks in a row where I went to an early screening because last week it was John Wick was again packed beyond capacity, and then this
Yeah.
week Aladdin same thing, but overall, just to give like a quick run of initial thoughts, I had a blast. I had a very fun time with it, and I am a huge
Awesome.
fan of the original. Now, there is a little bit of give and take here. There are a couple of new things that they put in that don't quite work with me, and there were a couple of
Hmm.
things that I felt were missing from the original that could have carried over. But as is, it's it's actually really good. Like it's one of the better live action remakes in my opinion.
That's awesome to hear. So yeah, because that's what it comes down to as well is how you feel about the original and as opposed to this film. So because I know you're a huge fan of The Hunchback and Lion King and this film. So um, talking more now about and keeping with the non-spoiler context based off of like directing, performances, storytelling, what were some of the standout parts of this film?
Oh my gosh, who wasn't? I mean, starting off with Mena Masad as Aladdin, he's really charming. He's very compelling, and you 100% buy that. You know, he is a thief with a prince inside of him. He is that diamond in the rough, and he really has those characteristics that. What was the actor's name for the original voice actor? Scott Cano, I believe, something like that. Like kind of what he brought, and Naomi Scott. I was nervous, but then I'm like, oh, wait a second, hold on a minute. Wasn't she Pink Ranger from Power Rangers? Oh, yeah, that's right. And I actually
Yeah,
really liked
yeah,
her in that.
Kimberly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, with the material she's given, she's excellent. Just
that's good.
excellent. Um, Biggest surprise for me was probably Marwan Kenzari as Jafar. Now, fans who are expecting, him to go full over the top like Jonathan Freeman did a few times during the movie. Don't don't expect that because the way that he's taking Jafar is a lot more subtle, a lot more subdued. Whereas in the original, he's just straight up, maniacal, evil, whatever. But Maynard Musad actually brought up a very interesting point in an interview. He said where if you look at Jafar as almost like a con man, then the character choices make 100% sense, and it's actually a lot more enjoyable when you view it through that lens.
Hmm.
Now, let's get to the big one, the one that
Yeah,
everyone's worried about. Will Smith is excellent.
good,
Oh my god.
good.
Like he's not trying to be Robin. He's not trying that at all. He is his own thing, which is what he needed to do in order to pull his character off successfully. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll even say, while clearly Williams was the better singer of the two of them, Will Smith actually holds his own when it comes to Never Had a Friend Like Me or Prince Ali. So, but it's also because he does know when to let the background chorus kind of take over the track.
Right. Yeah. And on that note, do you find that the songs do a pretty good job of carrying over into this new adaptation?
The old ones, funny enough, all but one of them. And it's actually two things there technically, because and again, you can't really spoil that much about this movie because, let's face facts, most of you have seen the original, but I won't give away too many details. But I'll just say this: Arabian Nights, the intro from the original, it's extended. Cool. And there's a couple new pieces that were written by the same people who did La La Land and Greatest Showman, and unfortunately, it kind of shows.
Oh, doesn't live up to the classics.
Now, I'll admit it might be just a little bit of bias against them as songwriters, and just because, like, granted, I mean, you and I really like the soundtrack for La La Land.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But we both have agreed that there were some songs that they wrote that weren't necessarily the greatest.
No, it's not all hits. Like,
yeah,
Aladdin and Lion King and Hunchback kind of had the fortunate ability to be.
Where, and because they were animated, like, every moment had to count, so every song had to count for something.
True.
And that's, well, shit, that's why Beauty and the Beast is still a perfect movie, in my opinion. But...
Anyway, moving on.
Anyway, yeah.
If you could speak also, you mentioned what Naomi Scott was given, and to kind of also move into the negatives, am I able to understand that to mean that maybe the writing wasn't always 100%, or
and now, okay, so first things first, when this movie got an update, it clearly got an update in regards to Jasmine's role, because look, in 1992, she did what was ballsy for 1992, but that is, doing nothing by 2019 standards. So of course they had to give her a much meatier role, where here her main character arc is, she thinks that she has what it takes to be the next sultan, because she knows the people, she knows their wants, she knows what their desires are, and she knows the kingdoms. Like, she is the better ruler than any of these prince suitors who are trying to, take over her father's kingdom, or even Jafar for that matter. Now, that's a great arc. That's a great idea. I like where they went with that. Now, as part of that, though, because, of course, we have to show how the men of this time are, sexist pigs and whatnot. And they're like, know your place, woman. We have a couple of those moments. Now, she does actually have her own solo number, which, if we recall from the original, she doesn't have that. And I'll say this, because Naomi Scott is a great singer, and I do mean a great singer, I don't hate the performance.
Right.
But when she finally gets this song, it's at arguably the worst possible place to put it in the movie. In my opinion.
Timing-wise.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and again, guys, take that with a grain of salt, because, I'm not going to crap on if this song actually, gets an Oscar nom, which it probably will.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Something in there is going to get some attention of these new ones. I mean, you have some pretty high-profile songwriters. And just to also move on, I guess, as far as when we look at knowing what we know of the story, and again, not getting into spoilers, do you feel like, because for me, Jungle Book was never a favorite as the animated version, and that really kind of carried over. CGI was great for Favreau's Jungle Book, but overall the story didn't do a good job of grasping me. The performances were great, the song that was included, really it was just the one, and maybe a little bit of another, but those songs were good. But the story just didn't grasp me because of what it was. So would you say that they do a good job of with like action sequences? I mean, because Guy Ritchie, as a director, he is an action director.
Yes, and I'm excited you bring that up because now we don't really have that many traditional action sequences in a film like Aladdin, but in place of that, we actually have a few, quote unquote dance sequences to go with the musical numbers, but they're shot like action sequences.
That's cool.
Which that's, to be fair, that's how old Hollywood used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that for me was actually really exciting. Like, for example, there's this one scene. Here, and I'll give a couple examples. The one Jump Ahead song,
Mm-hmm.
that is some tight choreography and tight camera work
Nice.
that Guy Ritchie oversees, and it's just flat out delightful. Now, and then there's another moment where it's at the palace when after the Prince Ali sequence, which again, by the way, it looks bad in that clip that's available on YouTube and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's way better in the movie, I promise.
Good.
But there's this dance sequence at the palace in Agrabah where, a whole bunch of dudes are dancing with women, and Aladdin is actually dancing with Jasmine as Prince Ali, and oh dear God, this thing was shot beautifully. The action was tight. The camera work was so it was like the best scenes of Moulin Rouge, where you can actually see everything that's happening around you, and that's what this dance sequence was.
That's
so
good.
Yeah.
So a good overall good job on Guy Ritchie with the directing.
Although and now I do have another small little criticism now with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that he can put this on his resume, and this movie's gonna make a lot of money. It's and it's getting mixed reception at the moment from critics, but the end of the weekend hasn't come yet, so we haven't tallied up everyone's reviews.
Right.
But while there are a bunch of small moments in between a lot of the songs and big sequences that have a lot of Guy Ritchie isms in terms of the dialogue, in terms of how the cameras are shot and whatnot, but overall, I do feel like Guy Ritchie was asked to hold back, and that does bother me a tad bit.
Right. Like maybe he didn't go full style like he tends to do.
Yeah. Like, okay, I'll put it this way. If you guys are expecting a Sherlock Holmes movie, don't expect that. Do not.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your expectations at the door.
So it is a kind of Disney-fied Ritchie film.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. It's still good.
Right. It's just not maybe what you were hoping for from the get-go.
Yeah.
That's good. And so now I'm going to put you on the spot here. Go ahead and give us your score out of 10 for this film, and then any final thoughts that you might have.
I've been thinking about it a lot, and if you put a gun to my head and I have to give it out of 10, out of 5, whatever, I think I'd have to say a 7.25 out of 10, where a lot of the adaptation process is actually really good, and the performances are great across the board, but there are going to be some details that will probably bug some audiences, and some of the newer numbers aren't as well incorporated as I personally think they could have been. And something else I forgot to say, in the original film, we actually had a few scenes of Jasmine while she was still at the palace, but she's there in the opening scene, already having run away from the palace, sort of run away.
Right.
But once you get past that sort of almost rushed feeling opening, it does slow down, and it gets a lot better.
That's good.
So, only thing I can really say is hop on a magic carpet to your local theater and go check out A Whole New World.
Oh, wow. Just I think you're fired after that.
Hey,
Oh,
well,
no, no.
and actually, and one last thing I will say, I wasn't expecting to get goosebumps during this movie,
Mhm.
but of course I did
Good,
during
good.
A Whole New World. Now that may be because I had an unintentionally romantic moment back in college involving that song,
Mhm.
but that's all the more I'll say
That's a
about that.
story for a different show. Yeah. Well, thanks, Chris, for coming on and talking to us about your thoughts on the new live action adaptation of Aladdin. He recommends it, guys, so you heard it here first. It's worth a look see. And Chris, where can the good kids find you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Doman. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page and like and subscribe to the channel because that way you get notified next week when we have the writer of Thor and X-Men First Class on the Who Cares Anyway
Yeah.
podcast, Zach Stentz. Get excited, motherfuckers.
Oh, it's going to be so awesome. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there for that show. Finally, finally. Yes, yes. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. And go ahead in the comments, guys. Let us know what you're hoping to get out of this Aladdin film. Based off the trailers, are you excited? Do you think you're going to hate Blue Will Smith? I mean, how are you feeling? And yeah, stick around because we have so much more coming for you guys. We're going to try to put out more reviews like this in the future, kind of generate some excitement for some of these movies that we're excited about. So thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, take care.
Yeah.